Hello everybody and welcome to the third iteration of my major guide for the action RPG Marvel Heroes. This particular guide is really designed to get you started in this game. That means I'm going to be going over everything from the absolute basics of how to move around, how to control your character, all the way up to what you can do after you reach level 60. That said, this guide is by no means absolutely comprehensive, so make certain that you take a look at all of the links in the description below. There's plenty of other videos as well as forum posts in there that will give you all of the information you could possibly want. In addition, make sure that you look at my Marvel Heroes Guides playlist. That's where I'll be putting all of the update guides as the game gets patched, so that you know how the game changes after this video is done. With that, thank you very, very much for being here. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and let's go on ahead and get started.
Well played, Mr. Stark. You have outfitted another army.
Hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
As soon as you start up Marvel Heroes, you'll be treated to a cutscene starring Uatu the Watcher and Dr. Doom. This will set up the story for the game as a whole, but you can skip it and go directly to the character selection screen by pressing Escape. Once you're at the character selection screen, you will see a grid of 12 heroes. It doesn't really matter who you pick, but feel free to browse around. These represent a good mix, a good versatility of different gameplay styles as well as attack types and all of that kind of stuff. But do keep in mind your choice is not by any means set in stone, so go ahead and experiment to your heart's content. Go ahead and pick somebody and then jump right into the prologue. There's a couple of key things to talk about initially here. First and foremost, go ahead and press Escape and go to the Options menu. This has standard PC gaming options where you can adjust everything to whatever your computer and you desire. This includes the key bindings, the audio settings, as well as the video settings. Under the gameplay settings, you have things ranging from being able to see numbers for attacks and healing, all the way to what loot will be vaporized. I'll be talking about several of the different aspects of the gameplay settings later on, but for now, just know that this is where you're going to find them. The other good section to take a look at is the Help menu. This has all the text-based information you could possibly need about the game. It's a little bit small in print, but any question that you have will most likely be answered there. The controls for Marvel Heroes are similar to most other games of this type. Whenever you click the left mouse button onto a section of the screen, your character will move to that section. Alternatively, you can press W by default, and your hero will be guided towards wherever your mouse cursor is at the time. Whenever you reach the point where it's time to fight some bad guys, there are several options for what to do. If you left-click directly on them, then you will use whatever power is in your left-click slot. If you hold Shift and press left-click, then no matter where you are, you will always use that power. Or you can also assign powers to the different keys that are assigned in your power bar. By default, you can assign powers to the left and right clicks, as well as the keys A, S, D, F, G, and H. You can also assign powers to multiple power bars and scroll through them by pressing the bracket keys. The other two important keys to remember are Control and Alt. When you press Control and left click, then you will always move even if your cursor is on top of an enemy. By pressing Alt, any items on the ground that belong to you will sort of light up so that you can see exactly what they are. On that note, all of the loot that is dropped in this game by enemies belongs to you. If you can see it on your screen, then nobody else is able to see it unless you or somebody else dropped it from their own inventory. In addition to the loot that the enemies will drop, they will also drop several different types of orbs. Red orbs will heal you, green orbs give you experience, blue orbs refill your spirit, purple orbs will refill both your spirit and your health. The blue orbs that look like they have lightning surrounding them represent Omega points, and the orange orbs represent a special type of experience orb from legendary quests. At first glance, the Marvel Heroes user interface may look a little bit complicated, but it's really not. In the top right-hand corner is your mini-map, which you can expand by pressing Tab. Directly below that is your quest tracker, which you can cycle through by clicking on the banner. At the bottom right corner are your buffs and debuffs. In the center of the bottom, you'll see the main portion of the UI, which tracks your primary resource, your health, your experience for both leveling and earning Omega points, your powers, and cooldowns for your team-up, ultimate power, and medkit use. On the left side is the chat window. You can cycle through its size by clicking the banner. On the top left is a symbol that represents your ping. There are several major windows within the interface that you can access. By pressing P, you bring up the powers window. From here, you can adjust your PowerPoint distribution and, once they're unlocked, Omega Point distribution and hero synergies. By pressing O, you open up the Social tab, which allows you to see your friends, nearby players, ignored players, and players in your supergroup. Pressing T opens up the window that allows you to swap between heroes as well as team-ups. In order to do so, simply click on a portrait and click Switch. For the team-up heroes, click on a portrait and click Set Active. Once a team-up is selected, press K to summon them. Press V to access the rewards window. This includes the daily login rewards as well as the achievements, so you can see what's coming up and what you can work towards. The in-game store is accessed by pressing X. Here you can use the in-game currency G to purchase fortune cards, heroes, costumes, and more. In addition, you can also gift many of these items to other players. The character window can be opened by pressing C. This gives you access to information about the hero as well as the inventory. This window can also be opened by pressing I. Doing so opens up both the character and the team-up inventory, allowing easier swapping of items between the two. You can easily switch gear around between heroes by having both the character window and the hero roster window open at the same time. If you click on a portrait in the roster window, then their portrait and gear will show up in the character window, so you can take something off and or put something on them. The quest log is open with L. There are three major tabs here: quests, shared quests, and influence missions. The quests tab lists the quests for the different story chapters as well as the legendary quests once you reach level 20. Shared quests are on a weekly rotating schedule. These have you go to different areas of the game to accomplish certain tasks. You're rewarded with numerous currencies as well as items. Influence missions are very similar to reputation missions in other games. By completing these quests, you increase your influence with different factions, and by doing so they will offer you better items. Waypoints are the means of getting around to the major locations within the game. You've got three tabs: Story, Terminals, and Challenges. The Story tab contains the hubs, as well as all of the different waypoints for all of the story chapters. The Terminals tab includes terminals and one-shot stories. In the game context, these are small pocket dimensions that essentially allow you to rush bosses. The one-shot stories are individual arcs that are aside from the main game story. By and large, the challenge modes are area of high mob density. These include the wave defenses of X Defense and HoloSim, as well as the patrol zones Midtown Manhattan and Industry City Patrol, and once you reach level 60, Ultron mode and raiding. In addition, once you reach level 60, you'll also unlock cosmic variants of the terminals as well as the patrol zones. Additionally, whenever you're outside of a hub, you can press B and you will body slide back to the hub from which you came. The timer for when you can use this feature next is shown in the top right corner of the screen. As an analogy to other games, each character within this one can be considered their own class, with their own personal strengths, weaknesses, capabilities, and gameplay style. Heroes range in style from the large, beefy, melee-centric heroes to the large-scale area of effect ranged heroes that are relatively squishy. There are also heroes who rely on stealth for more damage, and even heroes that let their minions do all the work for them. Each hero is unique, but they all have several things in common. There are a total of 164 power points available in Marvel Heroes for each individual character. These are unlocked by leveling up and doing certain quests within the story mode. You assign power points in the power window, and then you can slot them into your action bar. Feel free to experiment all you want. Power points are free to reset by simply pushing the big reset button in the bottom left-hand corner. Every hero also has a primary resource, which is tracked on the right side of the main UI at the bottom of the screen. For some heroes, this is specific to their character types, such as Punisher's ammo or Juggernaut's momentum, but for other heroes, it's the general spirit. Some heroes also have secondary resources, which are tracked above the XP bar. When trying to figure out a build, I always recommend you go to the Marvel Heroes forums. Each hero has their own subsection that includes build guides written by members of the community. Within any build, you'll typically see a good power that does not require the use of a primary resource, a good primary resource spending power for fighting single enemies such as bosses, and numerous opinions on the passive powers, which, as they imply, you simply spend points in and then get bonuses for. Each power can be ranked up to 20. Beyond that, gear and items can level it up further, all the way to 50. While you can play every hero up to level 10, at some point you'll need to uncap them in order to get them to level 60. There are 3 major ways to uncap a hero. The first is with Eternity Splinters. These drop in-game approximately every 4 minutes. You can purchase a random hero box for 175 splinters, or you can save up for a specific hero. In addition, on your first day of logging in, you receive 400 Eternity Splinters, which is enough to purchase one of the majority of heroes. Secondly, you can use the in-game store. This utilizes G, which is real-world currency converted for in-game use. Lastly, you can purchase hero packs from the Marvel Heroes store website. The hero packs are nice because you receive stash space and additional costumes for your hero. Many people ask about the statistics of Marvel Heroes, and while that's a very complex question, I'll go over some things very briefly. Your main attributes, durability, strength, fighting, speed, energy projection, and intelligence, are seen on the main page of the character sheet. These directly affect your hero's combat prowess in numerous ways. Going to the Statistics tab, you'll see numbers everywhere. There are several important ones you want to pay attention to, however. To ensure you're getting good damage, you want to focus on 3 primary things: damage rating, critical hit rating, and brutal strike rating. The damage rating is purely how much damage you're going to be doing. Please note that you want to look at the specific damage type that your hero utilizes, be it physical, mental, or energy, as just the base damage rating is added to any specific damage rating for these damage types. Critical hits are randomly rolled on any attack and do additional damage. If you hover over your critical hit rating, you will see the approximate percentage of your critical hits. Depending on your hero, you generally want this to be around 30 to 50%. A brutal strike is effectively a critical hit of a critical hit. As with the critical hit rating, you typically want this around 30 to 50% depending on the hero that you're using. The balance between damage rating, critical hit rating, and brutal strike rating will really determine what gear and items you'll want to equip. Essentially, it takes more damage rating to get the same damage per second out of an increase to critical hit or brutal strike ratings. Another important statistic to take a look at is the Hero XP Synergy. Your first hero to level 60 grants you a permanent 30% increase in XP. With your second hero to level 60, you gain a total of 50%, the third gets you up to 65, and the fourth to 75. After those first 4, each level 60 hero gives you an additional 5%. This can be done up to a total of 200% additional experience. Because of this, I highly recommend leveling up your first 4 heroes to 60 as quickly as possible so that you can really start to build up that XP bonus. Additionally, every level 30 hero gives you 1%, and every level 50 hero gives you 2%, regardless of how many heroes you have at level 60. If you want, you can turn off the XP Synergy system in the Gameplay Options menu. The Omega system is essentially a way of enhancing your hero's capabilities outside of the standard power structure. It consists of nodes that are separated into 14 categories, including human augmentation, supernatural investigation, nanotechnology, radioactive origins, interstellar exploration, arcane attunement, neural enhancement, and more. Omega points are very easy to obtain. You get them in several different ways, but the primary way is to earn experience. Just as you're leveling your hero, you will see these blue glowing orbs. Those represent Omega points. If you go over them, then you will pick them up. In addition, you can earn Omega points by way of login rewards and achievement rewards as well. Just like with power points, you are free to reset and rearrange your Omega points whenever you feel like it. This is especially valuable because some of the Omega nodes are really only good for a certain type of playstyle or character type. That said, here are some basic recommendations for some Omega nodes that are accessible relatively early and can help you out in the long run. In the mutation category, take a look at Blob and Frenzy. Blob gives you dodge, health, and defense, while Frenzy gives you a bonus critical hit rating when you hit with a melee attack. In the radioactive origins tree, the Harpy gives you a critical and brutal rating boost whenever you hit with a melee attack. In nanotechnology, look at Spin Tech, which gives you additional damage to bosses, although it is relatively expensive compared to the other ones. In human augmentation, the Forever compound will give you you health regeneration per minute. In Arcane Attunement, the Arcane Attunement node will give you +1 spirit, suit power, momentum, or whatever it happens to be that your primary resource is for the particular character you're playing. There are several powers accessible early on, namely the nanotechnology microsurgery experimental robots and the psionics trees precognition and clairsentience. All three of these nodes give you plus experience per enemy defeat. That might sound very, very good, and it actually is very helpful early on in the game, but eventually you'll reach the point where you require millions upon millions and even tens of millions of XP to earn the next level. So these only become good for unlocking the next node, because 5 XP per enemy defeat doesn't really matter when you're looking down the barrel at 16 million XP required. The Omega points that you earn are shared by all of your heroes. That is to say, if you earn an Omega point while playing as Invisible Woman, you'll be able to use it while playing as Wolverine, or anybody else for that matter. That said, you spend the Omega points individually, so any points that you spend on Rocket Raccoon will not be spent on Hawkeye. As I said before, you need to reach level 30 before you can use the Omega system. This goes for any hero. That is to say, until you get an individual hero to level 30, you will not be able to use this system with that particular hero. The hero synergy system works in two ways. First, it's a way of rewarding players who play a lot of different heroes. Secondly, at the same time, it's a way of enhancing any heroes that you play whenever you play them. This system, which you can start using at level 25, unlocks 2 bonuses for each hero, one at level 25 and one at level 50. Typically, the individual bonuses will be related to one another, but that's not necessarily the case. Bonuses from hero synergies range anywhere from increasing utility stats, such as increased RIF, SIF, and XP, to increasing the amounts of health and primary resources, to defensive and offensive stats, and many more. There are several bonuses that are very, very good regardless of the type of hero that you're playing and generally regardless of your playstyle. First and foremost is Cyclops. I always recommend that new players especially get Cyclops as soon as they can if they're planning on playing more heroes. His level 50 synergy bonus grants you an additional 10% experience across the board. In addition to Cyclops, Deadpool and Gambit both give you bonuses to RIF, Rare Item Find, and SIF, Special Item Find, respectively. In addition, Deadpool gives you a bonus to both Rare Item Find and Special Item Find, while Gambit gives you a bonus to credits on drop and also to Rare Item Find. There are several other good general use synergies as well. Hulk grants you health, Storm grants you spirit or whatever primary resource your hero uses, Punisher grants you health and spirit when you defeat enemies, Rogue grants you health and spirit when you hit enemies, and Venom grants you health and additional damage if you're below 50% HP. Mr. Fantastic gives you a discount for crafting costs and also an increase to critical damage. Both the Hero Synergy and Omega systems allow you great versatility in increasing the capabilities of your hero, while simultaneously simply helping you have more fun, get more stuff, and generally have a better time. Team-up heroes act as a sort of sidekick for your main hero. They have their own inventory, statistics, and powers. As I mentioned before, you can view your team-up by either pressing I or pressing T and clicking on View in the Team-up tab. The team-up heroes earn XP just as your regular hero does through normal gameplay. There are 3 main modes: continually on, a burst damage, or permanently off with some passive effects. Some of the team-up powers are only usable when the team-up is not present, so these are really only useful if you're utilizing the passive version. Once you've set a team-up hero as active, you can call them by pressing K. The tooltips will state specifically which powers are usable while the team-up is present and or away. The team-up heroes are purchasable in the same way as regular heroes are, by Eternity Splinters or from the in-game store. You can even purchase them from the menu with T. The team-up heroes allow for even more diversity. You can add additional melee power to your current melee character, you can have a sort of shield for your ranged squishy character, or anything in between. The gear rankings in Marvel Heroes work very, very similarly to other games like this. First off, you've got the white or the gray level, and then you've got green, blue, purple, yellow, and brown. Each of these individual levels has different capabilities. The white and the gray actually give you no particular bonuses. Green items give you a single affix or a single bonus. Blue give you 2, purple give you 3, and then cosmic gives you multiple affixes as well as a special cosmic bonus to go along with it. Unique items are typically the ultimate items that you want to have because they give you the most versatility, the best options for your character, and on top of that are generally what are called best in slot. There are effectively 10 groups of gear slots in Marvel Heroes. 7 of them you'll see surrounding your character's portrait, with the other 3 directly below that. The 5 directly below your character's portrait are the gear slots 1 through 5. Above that to the right is the ring slot. Directly above that is the Uru Forged. Along the top row you have 4 artifact slots and 1 medallion slot. On the left side you have the relic slot and the legendary item slot. The bottom 3 are the costume, the insignia, and the pet. Gear slots 1 through 5 are effectively your character's main equipment. These have the most direct effect on your damage statistics, powers, and more. They are level specific and generally hero specific. Gear slots 1 through 5 can be enhanced at the enchanter using a single rune for an enchantment. Enchantments on gear slots 1 and 5 will generally give you offensive capabilities, while gear slots 2, 3, and 4 will give you utility stats such as increasing your primary resource, health, or defense. Rings are designed to give you a slight boost to offense and or defense. These range in rarity from green to unique. Uru Forged items give you a set bonus to either defense or a specific damage type. There are level 25 and level 50 versions. Uru Forged items can be enhanced at the enchanter by adding rune words. Rune words require multiple runes and give you bonuses ranging from increased Riff, Sif, and XP, all the way to summoning copies of Loki. Artifacts are probably the most diverse group of items in Marvel Heroes. They range from utterly useless to virtually necessary for endgame content. Artifacts have set level requirements. If you find 2 of the same type, they'll have the same level requirement, but more than likely different variable numbers. Artifacts can be enhanced at the enchanter with blessings. Blessings cost 100 Odin marks each and generally enhance your offensive capabilities. Hela, which increases brutal strike chance, and Frigga, which increases the damage done by summoned creatures, are the most commonly used. Lastly, any artifacts that have an item grade of 50 or above also include a StarkTech cube slot. The cubes drop randomly and increase a specific power for a hero by 1 point. Additionally, you can add a StarkTech cube slot to any item that's below grade 50 by visiting the crafter. Anytime you defeat a boss, they will drop their medallion. Like artifacts, these have an extremely large diversity. Blue text medallions are low-level versions that don't give you a bonus for your powers. Purple medallions give you +1 to all your powers, while cosmic medallions give you +2 to all your powers. There are about a dozen relics available in Marvel Heroes. Each one gives you a specific bonus type and are stackable up to 1,000. After a while, the bonus plateaus off, and you don't get nearly as much for adding additional relics. Legendary items are purchased either at Odin's Palace or in Hammer Bay. The ones you purchase in Odin's Palace are equipable at level 1. Those you get at Hammer Bay by having the maximum influence on the Genosian Liberation Force are much more powerful versions, but they're also more expensive and require you to be at level 60 to equip. Legendary items gain experience just as your hero and team-up do. There are 5 total ranks of unlocking the capabilities of a legendary item, with each level having a set amount of required experience. Costumes, while not inherently adding anything other than aesthetics, can be modified at the crafter to have affixes and costume cores, which give you significant boosts. Insignias are based around several teams in the Marvel Universe. Your hero can only equip insignias for teams they're affiliated with. You can check this by hovering over the small yellow icon in the bottom right corner of your character's portrait. Insignias range in rarity from green to purple, and the purples can be upgraded to cosmic. Each insignia is named for a specific person affiliated with that team, and each person's insignia will give you a specific aura effect that assists you and or nearby allies. Pets, like the costumes, have both aesthetic and gameplay effects. You can call a pet by right-clicking on its portrait. Pets utilize the cybernetic system. I mentioned this briefly when I discussed the gameplay options in the Loot Vaporizer. If the Loot Vaporizer is on, any item of the selected level rarity or below will be given automatically to your pet. If your pet has full affixes, the item will either count to the next lower level, or it will be converted into credits. Alternatively, you can hold Alt and right-click on an item in your inventory and it will be fed to your pet. Each rank of uncommon, rare, epic, cosmic, and unique items will give a different affix on the pet, and each has a different general category. For example, the unique affix will increase 1 or more of your attributes. You can reset the affixes of a pet by visiting a crafter. Pets are also unique in that they're not bound to a specific hero. You can take and pass them around to all of your heroes so each one can receive the bonuses from the cybernetic system. If you see any items on the ground that go into gear slots 1 through 5 and are below cosmic rarity, you can press J to activate the colloquially named Loot Vacuum. This will automatically donate the gear to your pet. There are many vendors within this game, and some of them are actually specific to certain areas. All major hub areas, however, have a gear vendor, a weapon vendor, a crafter, an enchanter, a fortune card vendor, an eternity splinter vendor, and a cube shard vendor. In addition to that, Avengers Tower has 3 specific vendors that are related to events that go on in the game. You have the Omega vendor, the Cosmic Chaos vendor, and the armor vendor. In Odin's Palace, you have the legendary item vendor, the siege case vendor, and the PvP ring vendor. In Genosha at Hammer Bay, you have the quartermaster, who provides you with items as you increase your influence with the Genoshan force. For the gear, weapon, crafter, and enchanter vendors, you'll need to level them up. When you first start, they are all at level 1, and you gain them levels by donating gear to them. The way that you donate gear is very, very simple. Any gear that you have in your inventory, you can hold Alt and right-click the gear, and instead of selling the gear or giving it to your pet, it will donate it to the crafter to increase their level. This is very, very important to do, especially early in the game, so that you can get access to some of these very, very important capabilities, particularly for the crafter and the enchanter. They should be the first 2 vendors that you increase in levels, respectively. It's important to level your crafter first because of the vast array of modifications to your gear he can make. These include adding cores and affixes to your costumes, re-rolling variable numbers for your artifacts and unique items, resetting your pet's cybernetic affixes to 0, and exchanging multiple uniques for various items. Crafting recipes will require crafting materials and credits. There are 4 major crafting elements which, when dropped by enemies, are seen with very light blue text. There are 8 rankings of the crafting materials from primitive to pure. To save inventory space, I recommend keeping at most the top 3, complex, refined, and pure. The crafter is able to break them down into lower levels if you need them. You can also teach the crafter new recipes that will add even more versatility to the vendor. Similarly to the crafter, the enchanter is there to improve the capabilities of your gear. In this case, the enchanter uses runes primarily. You can modify your gear slot 1 through 5 items with an enchantment. These vary depending on what type of rune you are using and range from increasing your damage to increasing your health. Again, just depending on what type of rune you use. The Uru forged items are modified by rune words. The rune words are extremely powerful and give you numerous different types of bonuses. There are several that are very, very good early on though, and they are Brigand's Fortune and Seer's Brilliance. Both of these will greatly help you with leveling as well as farming for new gear. The last major thing that the enchanter can do is bless your artifacts. Blessings are purchased with Odin marks. Odin marks are obtained by completing certain quests as well as through certain daily gifts. Blessings cost 100 Odin marks each and range again from increasing your damage output to increasing your defensive capabilities. Primarily, you're going to see Blessings of Hela and Blessings of Frigga recommended in different builds. The Blessings of Hela will increase your Brutal Strike capability, and the Blessings of Frigga will help with heroes who utilize summoning capabilities, such as Rocket Raccoon, Squirrel Girl, and Iceman. After you have increased the crafter and the enchanter to the maximum level, which is level 20, then you can go ahead and do the same thing for the gear and the weapon vendor, although those are much, much lower priority. Managing limited inventory space is a vital part of any game of this sort. In Marvel Heroes, you start off with your character's inventory, a team-up inventory, and 1 general stash tab. In addition to this space, you can also purchase additional general stash tabs, as well as crafting tabs and hero-specific tabs. The general stash tabs do exactly what they sound like. They can store any and every item in the game. The crafting stash tabs can store runes, costume cores, crafting materials, and Stark Tech cubes. Hero-specific stash tabs do exactly what they sound like and more. In addition to holding any items that are specific to a certain hero, the hero-specific stash tabs can store unbound items of various sorts, including Uru-forged items, rings, insignias, and any hero uniques. Here are a few tips for managing your inventory, especially if you're focused on being free to play and not wanting to buy any additional stash tabs. The first thing is to only gear up 1 hero at a time. While this will take longer, it'll also be the most efficient use of the space. On a most basic level, this means that you'll have to get rid of any gear that's specific for another hero or for a team that your hero is not a part of. Any item below Cosmic or Yellow rarity you'll want to get rid of, by either donating them to the vendors or your pet. In general, the best in slot items for most heroes are their own uniques. In some cases, however, Cosmic items are better. The forum build recommendations are going to be your best friend here. In addition to that, there are some items that you should generally keep no matter what. Unique items, especially those for your hero, are great to hang on to. You can either upgrade them later to a higher level at the crafter, or save up multiple copies so you can exchange them later. Exchanging uniques for credit chests is one of the best ways to level up your vendors. As I mentioned before, the artifacts in this game are diverse, and range from virtually useless to absolutely necessary. As a good rule of thumb, you'll always want to keep any items, be they uniques or artifacts, that are specific to certain bosses. These include the Gem of the Cursed, Black Tom's Shillelagh, Zola's ESP box, the Mental Focus headband, Taskmaster's Fighting for Losers guide, and more. Check the description of this video for a link to a forum post that lists all of the items that are dropped only by certain bosses. When changing and upgrading your gear, the Alt button is your best friend. I mentioned previously that holding Alt and hovering over an item will allow you to see the roll ranges for that item's affixes. This is a great way to see if you got a really good version of the item, or if you might even want to spend the crafting materials to try to re-roll it for a better version. As with gear slots 1 through 5, for insignias you'll only want to keep the best of the best. This means that you'll primarily want to keep purple insignias that have good affixes. Most often the desired affixes are critical hit and brutal strike rating. The same goes for rings. You want to keep cosmic and unique rings, and generally focus on the same affixes as with insignias. Costume cores can be difficult as well. Each character utilizes a specific costume core, be it the activated X gene, a promethium fragment, an adamantium alloy, or several others. The most desired costume cores are what are called trifectas, which have life on hit, and health and resource regeneration, and invincibility on medkit use. If you have 4 affixes on a costume core and they aren't all simply upgrades to certain damage types, it's pretty decent, but worth replacing. As a general rule of thumb, once you're able to replace them, you'll want to get rid of any items that are below level 60, except for unique items and artifacts. As I said, uniques are good for exchanging or upgrading, and artifacts have set level requirements, so you will not find very many level 60 required artifacts. As I mentioned before, for crafting materials, it's only really needed to keep the highest level, pure. But really, you don't even need to do that. If you're at level 60, you can run 1 or 2 cosmic terminals and get a decent number of pure crafting materials, so you don't even need to have them on hand. The only runes I really recommend you keep are Lake and Year, which are required for Seer's Brilliance. Other than that, you should keep the runes that have high credit values, such as Odin, Saturn, Thor, and Tyr. These are much harder to find and used in higher level crafting recipes. When I discussed the waypoints, I briefly mentioned the main content from Marvel Heroes: the story, terminals, one-shots, and challenges. The story mode is just that, an original semi-linear story composed of multiple chapters. Each chapter has a main quest that advances the story and also some side quests. At minimum, you should run through the story at least once for several reasons. First, it unlocks the waypoints for you. Second, it allows you to see which quests give you rewards. And third, it allows you to experience what really is a high-quality and intriguing story. The story also has 3 difficulties: normal, heroic, and super heroic. You change difficulty modes using the drop-down menu in the bottom left corner of the T window. Difficulties are unlocked in one of 2 ways. You either defeat Dr. Doom at the previous difficulty level, or reach level 25 to unlock heroic, or 45 for super heroic. The terminals are effectively cutouts of the story. These represent areas of the story where certain bosses are. Terminals have 3 difficulties: green, red, and cosmic. Before level 60, the only ones available are green and red. The terminal system is great because it allows you to easily farm certain bosses for their specific items. In other words, you can go in over and over and over. Additionally, green and red terminals will drop cube shards, which you can trade in with Clea for numerous rewards. You can receive a cube shard from an individual terminal only once per day. After you receive it, the terminal's icon on the right side will no longer be filled in. Also in the terminal tabs are the one-shot stories. These are story arcs that are outside the main story of Marvel Heroes. They're longer than terminals and have at least 2 bosses. They also tend to be slightly more difficult than terminals and should be done with a group. One-shot stories also have a similar looking cube shard icon. These indicate whether or not you have received the commendations from that particular one-shot. The challenges, like the one-shot stories, are outside of the Marvel Heroes storyline. As I mentioned before, these are primarily areas of high mob density. Before level 60, you'll have access to X Defense and HoloSim, which are both wave defense style areas, Midtown Manhattan and Industry City Patrol, which are both expansive areas with large concentrations of mobs and periodic boss waves from Midtown Manhattan, and events for Industry City Patrol. X Defense allows a group of up to 5 people to go and defend the X Mansion from waves of enemies, with the goal being to defend students. In this mode, the party is allowed an unlimited number of defeats. Only 2 people are allowed into HoloSim. The waves here are much more diverse, ranging from saving civilians and ignoring enemies, to defeating a specific type of enemy, to simply having mass waves of enemies coming at you. HoloSim lives are limited to 2, however. Once you reach level 60, you'll be able to access cosmic versions of Midtown Manhattan and Industry City, Ultron mode, and raiding. The cosmic versions of the patrol zones are much harder and also grant much better loot. Ultron mode effectively consists of a timed set of events. There are 5 total rounds, with each one having a specific goal for you and the rest of the party to accomplish. Depending on how quickly you do so, you'll receive either a bronze, silver, or gold rating. At the end of the mode, you'll receive treasure based on your ratings throughout the mode. Raiding is the large-scale, 10-person endgame content for Marvel Heroes. These consist of multiple boss fights that require some strategic planning and knowledge of the mechanics for the individual fights. I'll talk a little bit more about them in the endgame section of this video. Leveling in Marvel Heroes is really not a complex process. If you take your hero, go out and defeat some enemies, then soon enough you'll hit level 60. The big question is, how quickly do you want to do it? If you want to level more quickly, it's very simple. The first thing that you need to do is reach level 20. If you want to reach level 20 quickly, the easiest way is to go into the challenges, particularly the patrol zones. Once you reach level 20, you need to start doing legendary quests. Legendary quests are essentially side quests that are randomly given to you, which you can re-roll, and will send you to a specific part of the game to do a specific task. Questing, right? More often than not, the quest will have you go to a certain area and defeat X number of enemies or destroy X number of specific items. The reason that these are the fastest way to level from level 20 to level 60 is because they award a tremendous amount of XP, and in addition you earn credits and vital Odin marks which you can use to purchase blessings and legendary items later on. If you really want to keep things very quick though, you want to stick with legendary quests that put you in the challenge zones or the terminals. Those tend to be the absolute fastest because it's generally just defeating a certain number of a specific type of mob. In addition, you can join other players in a party and complete the quests that much faster. If you've leveled a hero quickly and enjoyed playing them, then I also highly recommend going back through several of the story quests. The reason being that some of the story quests give you some very important upgrades. You have things such as permanent health, permanent spirit, artifacts, XP boosts, rarity boosts, and more. For every single character, you can get these items 3 times, one for each difficulty of the story: normal, heroic, and super heroic. At the very least, I recommend that you at minimum go back and get the rarity boost from the Taskmaster quest and the XP boost from the Mr. Sinister quest all 3 times, because those will help you with all of your other characters, even if you just finished leveling a character that you're not really as excited about. There is actually a fairly large amount of social interaction that occurs within Marvel Heroes. The primary means by which this is done is through the chat window. The chat window has customizable tabs that allow you to look at several different channels, including social, looking for group or LFG, trade, tell, which are whispers, supergroup, party, and more. The social chat tab is for exactly that. This is just for regular everyday interaction, not necessarily having to relate to Marvel Heroes. The looking for group tab is exactly that. This is where you want to go if you want to find a party to go to, say, Midtown Manhattan to work on legendary quests, or if you need help fighting Dr. Doom, want to set up a raid or terminal farms, anything along those lines, you want to hit up LFG. Surprisingly enough, the trade channel is also about exactly what it seems like. This is where you go if you have items to trade or if you're looking for specific items. More often than not, you'll see people saying that they have a specific item by linking it in chat. The way that you do that is by pressing and holding Shift and then clicking an item with left click. This will put that particular item in whatever chat window is currently active. The supergroup and party channels have very similar functions. The supergroups are effectively like guilds within Marvel Heroes. You can start your own if you want to by talking to War Machine in Avengers Tower. You can also join up an existing one. If you're looking for a supergroup, a really good place to start is the Marvel Heroes forums. There's a separate section for supergroups and generally for social interactions within the game. The party channel is just what it sounds like. This is where you can talk to anybody that you are currently in a party with, whether this is during a raid, farming Midtown Manhattan, or anything else. While in any chat window, you can use the / to change where you're speaking. For example, you can type / followed by LFG, trade, social, say, or supergroup. Doing so and then pressing the spacebar will allow you to speak in that particular chat. But please note, anytime you are in a specific chat, be it trade, LFG, supergroup, or otherwise, you will not be able to see anything related to the other chat windows, including tells. In order to send a tell, all you need to do is type / tell followed by the player's name and then followed by your message. If you do it correctly, when you type tell and the player's name, you'll be able to see text that says tell player's name. The say command is rather unique because it doesn't actually go to a specific chat window. Instead, it's more of a brief announcement to other players who are nearby. If you're looking to start up a party to, say, work on legendary quests or shared quests in a specific area, the best place to go is looking for group. You can say what level range you're looking for, where you are, and how many people you're looking for. In addition, you can also ask people within that current instance. You can whisper them individually, or you can simply invite them to party. People are generally really good about accepting invitations when in these zones, because chances are they're probably there for the same reason that you are. The easiest way to find people around you is to look on the social window under nearby. This will list people within a certain radius of your character, so it's the best way to find people that are in your same instance. It's important to note here that there are effectively two different types of party. You have raid parties and regular parties. The regular parties can only contain up to 5 people at a time. These parties can go anywhere in the game, any content, as long as they match the level requirements for it. Raid parties can contain up to 10 people, but they're limited in content to which they can enter. These include raids, as well as the cosmic versions of the patrol zones. Because of the ability to have a full raid party in a cosmic patrol zone, you can be much more efficient at finishing legendary and shared quests in those particular zones. Trading in Marvel Heroes is accomplished by a secure window system. To initiate a trade, all you need to do is either right-click on a person in your party or in the social window, or hold Control and left-click on a person in the UI. In the drop-down menu, you'll be given the option to start a trade. Once you do, 2 windows will pop up. In these windows, the players will put the items which they're trading. Once both players have accepted the trade, the window will close automatically and you'll be the happy owner of your new item or items. I mentioned earlier that many artifacts act as a sort of currency in this game, such as the Gem of the Cursed, and to a lesser extent the Hand of Doom. The trade economy within Marvel Heroes, while entirely being player-run, does have several consistencies. First and foremost, it's very important to note that not all items are tradable. In order to see whether or not an item is, all you need to do is hover your mouse over it and look at the bottom right corner of the tooltip. If there is a statement that says, "not tradable," it means it's not tradable. Most often, this is associated with the gear slot 1 through 5 unique items. Since these are often best in slot, there is comparatively little trading that goes on with regard to those particular slot items. There is, however, very consistent trading with artifacts, runes, insignias, and to an extent, StarkTech cubes. I already briefly discussed the insignias, runes, and artifacts that do have trade value when I talked about inventory management earlier in this video. These include things such as the Hand of Doom, the Gem of the Cursed, the Mental Focus Headband, high-level runes such as the Loki rune, Thor, Surtur, and Odin, and insignias with great affixes such as Critical and Brutal Strike rating. As with anything, the higher the rolls are for the variable numbers on any of these items, the better offers that you will be able to receive. The biggest issue with making blanket statements about trade is that the prices fluctuate wildly, even on a day-to-day basis. Not to mention that, especially when new artifacts, runes, or other items are introduced to the game, they immediately jump to the top of the trade list, and one can demand an enormous payment for them. That said, the best way to really get a gauge of how much your gear is worth is to simply ask in the trade channel. Link an item by holding shift and left-clicking on it, and simply ask, "How much is this worth?" More often than not, you'll get at least 1 or 2 responses that say approximately what it may be worth. If not, do not be afraid to try again. The trade economy is a very difficult thing to wrap your head around in Marvel Heroes. One great place to gain some knowledge about the trade economy in general is to look at the Marvel Heroes forums. There's a trade subsection, and in there, some people even have discussion posts that are actually stores. They list out numerous items that they have for sale, and people make offers on them. So you can try to find what an item that's comparable to your own might be going for. You can also start your own discussion, maybe even have an auction if it's good enough. The best thing to do, however, is to gain as much knowledge as you possibly can before you really start to delve into it. I mentioned before that many of the trade items also act as currencies. Most commonly, you'll see Gems of the Cursed and Hands of Doom be commonly traded currencies for other items. This is in part because while they're not necessarily common, it's something that you can farm for fairly effectively. And it's an artifact that is usable by many heroes. The other somewhat common currency to use, blessings, allow you to spend your Odin marks instead of giving somebody items. You take one or more artifacts to the enchanter, bless them all with whatever blessings you agree to sell, and then trade with whoever wishes to purchase them. A very easy way to get low-level artifacts that nobody is particularly going to want is to visit Clea. She has several artifacts that are purchasable with credits. That said, fewer and fewer people are accepting and requesting blessings as payment for items. This is partially because there are a lot more ways in the game now to receive Odin marks. And as those changes commenced, there was a massive inflation of the cost of different items with regard to blessings. So now they're virtually unused except for relatively low-level runes and Stark-Tech cubes. There are several major currencies that are utilized in Marvel Heroes when dealing with non-player characters. First and foremost, you have credits. These are the piles of coins that drop whenever you defeat enemies, and primarily these are used for re-rolling legendary quests and utilizing the crafter's services. You obtain credits again by defeating enemies, but you can also trade in unique items for credit chests at the crafter. Cube shards are primarily obtained from running terminals at the green and red difficulties. At the end of these terminals, when you defeat the boss, they will drop a cube shard every single day. After 24 hours, this will reset and you'll be able to see the small symbol on the menu active again so that you know the cube shard is available again for that particular terminal. Cube shards are traded in with Clea, the cube shard vendor, and she has items ranging from ghost boxes to fortune cards and many other things in between. G represents real-world money that has been converted for in-game use. This is the currency that you utilize at the in-game store to purchase heroes, team-ups, pets, boosts, and more. Eternity Splinters, which I've already discussed previously with regard to purchasing team-ups and heroes, are obtained in the game by drops from enemies. Eternity Splinters themselves are on a timer that goes for approximately 4 to 8 minutes. That is to say, every 4 to 8 minutes you spend playing this game, you will see an Eternity Splinter drop. Odin marks are primarily obtained from the legendary quests that I mentioned earlier when I talked about leveling. Each legendary quest you complete gives you some number of Odin marks. In addition, you can also obtain Odin marks by completing shared quests every day. Odin marks are primarily used to purchase legendary items either from Odin's Palace or Hammer Bay, or to bless your artifacts at the Enchanter. You can also obtain cube shards, eternity splinters, and Odin marks from different events as well as daily rewards. Commendations represent the rewards you receive for performing high-level heroic feats in this game. There are 3 levels of commendation: Hero, Protector, and Commander. These are primarily earned from completing one-shot stories and raids or given to you as daily login rewards. Commendations are exchanged with Hogan, the Asgardian raid vendor. Here you can receive recipes to upgrade your gear slots 1 through 5, be it by directly increasing the item grades, adding challenge bonuses that increase your attributes, or enabling you to craft the unique items from raid bosses. There are several recurring events within Marvel Heroes, and several of them actually have their own currencies that they utilize. Cosmic Chaos utilizes Cosmic World Stones, Operation Omega utilizes Omega Files, and Armor Incursion utilizes Armor Research Drives. All 3 of these items can be traded in at Avengers Tower. In the western wing of the tower, you will see 3 vendors. These are the vendors you go to trade in these particular currencies. Events within Marvel Heroes typically take place on a weekly basis, starting and stopping with the weekly patches. The one major exception for this is Midtown Madness. While Midtown Madness can be a week-long or even longer event, more often than not, Midtown Madness solely takes place on Mondays. During this event, any and all bosses within the Midtown Patrol Zone will drop a Midtown Madness box, which contains a great deal of XP, as well as a very high chance for dropping high-quality items. Because of this, I recommend starting off leveling up heroes in Midtown on Mondays, as it means that you'll be able to get to level 20 much faster. The Cosmic Chaos event represents the fabric of the cosmos essentially coming partially unraveled. During this event, you will randomly see drops of Cosmic World Stones as well as World Stone caches. Whenever you open up these particular boxes, you'll see plenty of Cosmic World Stones on the ground, in addition to some great loot. Cosmic Chaos also increases the pace at which you gain XP while you're going through a Cosmic level prestige. In addition, Cosmic Terminal bosses will drop double the loot. The Operation Omega event effectively represents all of the heroes preparing for battles that are to come. Operation Omega is one of the best events in which to level up. This is primarily because there is a scaling bonus to Riff, Sif, and XP that increases by 24% each day the event is active. In addition, the first time you complete any shared quest, you receive double the Omega Orb rewards and 30 shield files. Leveling up to obtain new Omega Orbs is 24% faster. And Agent Coulson gives you a mission in which you go into the Holosim. If you complete 5 waves, then he will give you a reward of additional Omega files. Odin's Bounty is a very unique event in that it works on a rotation. During Odin's Bounty, different portions of the game will be boosted. The rotation consists of terminals, one-shots, patrol zones, X-Defense, and Holosim. While each particular zone is active, defeating the bosses within that zone will give you a chest or more of Odin's Bounty. The number of chests that you get depend on what level of difficulty you're playing at. If you play on the harder difficulties, such as Red or Cosmic Terminals, you get more of the Odin's Bounty chests. These, like many of the other event-specific chests, will give you a lot of experience as well as some great items. In addition to the regular recurring events, Marvel Heroes also has events that are specific for certain holidays or major events that are going on. For example, we have the winter holidays, both solar and lunar New Year's, St. Patrick's Day, the 4th of July, Canada Day, the FIFA World Cup, and plenty more. Each of these particular events works very similarly to the regular rotations, where it lasts typically a week from patch to patch, and there are items that are specific to whatever the theme happens to be. More often than not, though, these events will not have their own currencies, but rather simply items that are available to sell or donate to the vendors for large amounts of money. One great thing about Marvel Heroes is that every day that you simply log into the game, you get some sort of an item. These rewards range from boosts to Omega Orbs to special items to heroes and everything in between. Importantly, when you obtain daily rewards from either this system or from whatever event is currently going on, you'll also receive a Shield Delivery Manifest. This is an item that simply states what it is you received this day. The item itself is worthless for the purpose of gameplay and is solely designed for you to either sell or donate to the vendors for a hefty sum of 1,000 credits. One of the most commonly asked questions about Marvel Heroes is what you should do after you reach level 60. Essentially, the answer to this question relies on whether or not you want to continue playing as that same hero. If you do want to continue, then you have many options for endgame content, including raids, cosmic level terminals and patrol zones, Ultron mode, PvP, and more. To make certain that your hero is ready for the real endgame content for Marvel Heroes, you want to make certain that you've got all of your gear slots full. This means you want to have a good insignia, good gear slots 1 through 5, a ring, an Uru forged item with a rune word, 4 artifacts, a good medallion, some kind of a relic that fits your gameplay style, and a legendary that is at least in the process of being leveled. If at level 60 your gear isn't quite to a reasonable level, you can run things like red terminals or the ordinary Midtown Manhattan and Industry City patrols, particularly during events like Midtown Madness Monday. Another good way to gear up your hero is to visit our old friends the cows. That's right, you can go to the Confidential Bovine Sector or Bovenheim. These are both references to Diablo 2, the creator of which also created Marvel Heroes. These sections are enormously densely packed with mobs, and they have very good drop rates for both cosmic and unique items. Bovenheim particularly will drop up to 7 unique items from the main boss, Allfather Brevik. And that's in a single run, so you can imagine how easily you can upgrade some of your items. The only major downside to the 2 cow sections is that the items are not guaranteed to be level 60. Again, however, this is more so just to prepare yourself for some of the other content, so it's really not that big of a deal. The biggest thing is finding a decent group to go in with and being able to afford the portals. Both of the portals can be purchased from Adam Warlock for Eternity Splinters, and if you get lucky enough with a Fortune Card Mark I, you can obtain the recipe to make portals to the classified Bovine Sector, the regular one. These zones will at least get you some good enough gear that you can start going into the harder zones, such as the Cosmic Patrol Zones, Cosmic Terminals, and Raids. As a side note, this is actually the time that you can upgrade your legendary item with the item grade 80 variation that you can get in Hammer Bay. These are only equipable by level 60 heroes, but you have to make certain that this is something that you really want for your hero, because they are very expensive. It's a huge commitment. Once you have at least reasonable gear, that is to say cosmic or unique items for all of the gear slots 1 through 5, a decent cosmic ring, a good medallion, and some reasonable artifacts, you can at least get started with some of the lower end endgame content. These include the cosmic terminals as well as the cosmic patrol zones, Midtown Manhattan and Industry City. As their names imply, these are simply more difficult versions of these specific zones, but the nice thing about them is that you get substantially more experience as well as better loot from all of them. In the Cosmic Terminals, you also have the option of obtaining the bounty chests. These are unlocked by defeating a certain number of enemies before reaching the boss. If the threshold is reached, then after the boss is defeated, the bounty chests will appear, typically behind where the boss resides. The cosmic variations of both Midtown Manhattan and Industry City are effectively simply more difficult versions of their non-cosmic counterparts, but at the same time you do get a tremendously larger amount of loot. And more importantly, that loot is typically much higher quality as well. Both the cosmic terminals and patrol zones are great ways to gear up your hero for some of the more intense endgame content. The raid system within Marvel Heroes is very unique to any action RPG. The raiding system is unique from other massively multiplayer games in several ways. First and foremost, having 10 people as an absolute cap. This means that you don't have to worry quite as much about other players' power effects. Secondly, the raiding in Marvel Heroes is designed to be much faster compared to other games. If you have a really good solid team, you can complete a raid easily in less than half an hour. Even with a relatively new team having to restart several times, you should still be able to do it in easily under 45 minutes or an hour. Currently, there are only 2 raids implemented in Marvel Heroes, Muspelheim and the Red Onslaught raid. The Muspelheim raid is by far the easier of the two, but it has 2 difficulty levels, green and red. Like many other modes, the green variation of Muspelheim is fairly simple as far as endgame content goes. You do still need a reasonable amount of gearing, but by no means do you ever have to have best in slot. You can easily get away with early to mid 50 level items in gear slots 1 through 5, and an under-leveled legendary. Ideally, you should have all 4 of your artifacts blessed, however. If nothing else, then simply to show that you are dedicated to the character and are willing to invest the resources to get them raid ready. After each boss of the raids, you see a giant loot explosion, which includes, amongst other things, unique items and a chest of commendations. These will be either hero or protector commendations. For the Muspelheim Green raid, these will be heroic commendations, and for the Red Muspelheim and Red Onslaught raids, they are protector commendations. As I mentioned before, these commendations are used as currency at the Odin's Palace raid item vendor. Here is where you buy the recipes that allow you to upgrade your items up to item grade level 69. An item that requires you to be level 60 has an item grade of 63 at the beginning. You can upgrade it to level 66 by using one recipe, and then up to level 69 by using another. Just as with the blessings, this shows your dedication not necessarily to a single hero, but to the game in general, because it takes a great deal of time to earn these heroic and protector commendations. Another portion of endgame content that I personally don't use very much is player versus player. You go into an arena with your fellow teammates, and you fight against another team. If you're a person who happens to enjoy this type of gameplay, it's definitely the place where you should go. But just like any of the other endgame content, you want to make certain that you are reasonably geared for it because you know for sure that everybody else is going to be. As part of PvP combat, you will be earning Crowns of Valor. The Crowns of Valor can be turned in at Odin's Palace at the PvP ring vendor. These rings are specific for PvP action and actually give you boosts to doing damage to other players. Ultron mode is a very unique mode within Marvel Heroes, where you have a 5-part miniature story of sorts. During each section, you have a specific goal that you need to attain, whether it's protecting innocents, or stopping the robots with an EMP, defeating the Iron Legionnaires, or Ultron himself. During each of these sections, you're on a timer. Each section is rated for completion as either bronze, silver, or gold. Essentially, the way that you get each one is dependent on how quickly you and your team complete each individual section. The faster you do it, the more likely you are to get gold. At the end of the entire mode, once you defeat Ultron, you'll get loot that's relative to how you performed on each of the individual sections. Obviously, if you got bronze, you get far less than what you would get if you got gold. In order to achieve that, though, you do need to get that decent gear. There are also some fairly amazing exclusive items that you can obtain from Ultron mode, which makes it very worthwhile to run, in addition to the fact that it is such a unique experience within Marvel Heroes. As another option for continuing to play the same hero, you can also prestige them. Prestige is exactly that. It's simply a way to show that you are so dedicated to your character that you effectively play as them again. You prestige by going to Clea, the Cube Shard vendor, and purchasing an Ancient Gourd of Prestige. Once you use it, you will be reset to level 1. In addition, the name above your hero will change color, and you will receive another copy of the hero's default costume. You can prestige a total of 6 times, which means that for a single hero you can get to level 60 a total of 7 times. The final prestige, called Cosmic Prestige, is very, very difficult. It requires approximately 26 times the amount of XP to level during Cosmic Prestige as it does for any other level, so make certain that you only do this if you are truly dedicated to a hero. Another somewhat random thing you can do at endgame if you want to continue playing as the same hero is to work on getting some achievements. Each hero has their own little section of achievements that require you to do numerous things, ranging from obtaining all of the hero's unique items to defeating a certain number of a certain enemy while equipped with a certain item. This is definitely the type of thing for the completionist in all of us, and you can also get some really amazing rewards. That's it for me, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this guide video for Marvel Heroes. Please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything else, put it into the comments below this video, or you can visit the forum page that's associated with this particular video, which again is linked in the description below. With that, thank you so very much again for being here and watching this. I hope that you not only enjoyed it, but also that you were able to learn something about this amazing game that will help you to play it a little bit more efficiently, or at least taught you something that you didn't know before. But with that, I will see you next time, and hopefully I will see you in game.